Duke, phenomenal basketball team. But there's got to be chinks in the armor, right?
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Friday. It's March 7th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and you're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making us your first listen or watch of the day to get your Friday going the right way. Special shout out to all the everydayers joining us, all the Locked On Tar Heels Discord members, and of course, our great insiders. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Joining me today to help us get ready for Duke Round 2 is our guy, Coach Bill Robinson, newly minted Appalachian Athletic Conference champions. Way to go, Milligan. So proud of you, Coach. It's incredible. We'll talk about that and unpack it more later in the show, but just right out of the gate, my man, so happy and proud of you.
Thanks. It's first time in school history we've won the conference tournament, so and the women won too. So we got to celebrate doubly. So it's been a great weekend.
It's so funny, Coach. I don't think I've told you this. So my assistant sitting literally right on the other side of the wall over here is a Johnson grad who Milligan beat. And so she obviously had no idea what was going on, but I gave her crap about it this week. So there you go. Take that. Coming up on the show today, guys, we're going to get ready for the Duke game. We'll have our Four Corners preview of the game. We're going to talk about senior night, how you manage those emotions, update on the women's game. They're playing in the ACC tournament right now against Boston College. And but where we're going to start is talking about this Duke basketball team, which, Coach, it's undeniable. This is a phenomenal team. They are strong in a ton of ways. They have great talent. They've got great depth. They've got great offense. They've got great defense. But here is the truth about any basketball team ever. I don't care if it's that Warriors team that lost like 10 games or whatever it was. There are ways to beat anybody. So, Coach, you evaluate, you look at, and you see teams all the time. When you see this Duke team, despite how good they are, there's got to be chinks in the armor, right? And my question to you is, what are they for this Duke Blue Devils basketball team?
Yeah, the first thing you look at statistically is just how they shoot the basketball. In conference, they're shooting 50% from the floor, 39 from three, and over 80% from the foul line. And you're sitting there going, there's nobody to foul. There's no hack-a-shack, strategy available. So I went and started looking at the games that they lost. And the game is played because on paper, even though it looks like maybe a slaughter, you have to still be able to play the game. And that's why they play the game. So when you look at what Duke did in those losses, I think that's where you have to start. So the Kentucky game, they were 4 for 24 from three. They just had a bad game. And that's something you can hope on. The defense, obviously, Carolina's defense has been fantastic the last couple of weeks. So let's get them uncomfortable. Let's make shots hard. The first time, nothing was hard. It was shooting drill threes for the most part. There was no hands and faces. They were not uncomfortable at all. Second game, the Kansas game, the tempo was there. Kansas held them to 48 shots total, and Duke averages 60 a game. So when you only take 48 shots, part of that was the turnovers. They had 16 turnovers against Kansas, so that was a big thing too. And then the Clemson game, Clemson just shot the ball great. They shot 59% from the floor, and Duke's in conference is giving up under 40% defensive field goal percentage. So those are three things that I think when you're looking for reasons and you're looking for chinks in the armor, you're looking and saying, hey, here's some things that we have to do. We have to be able to turn up the defense. I think the new lineup allows us to do that, controlling tempo, being able to rebound, being able to make shots. I mean, those are the things that those other teams have done in order to beat them. So that's where I would start as a coach when I'm talking to my team and trying to talk about things that we can do to beat a team that's as good as Duke right now.
And Coach, you bring up a great point with the new lineup and how it's doing things, because in some regards, this is a new Carolina team since the last time Duke faced them. And so you talked about Hubert Davis's message. I mean, is part of that, like, hey, look, let's not sugarcoat this. We got shellacked by this team in Cameron, right? There's no way other than to look at it. But boys, it's a new day. You talked about Clemson and how well they shot in that game. Coach, the reality is Carolina comes in on a 6-game winning streak, and in all 12 halves of basketball in that winning streak, they've made at least 40% of their field goals. In 10 of those 12 halves, they've made at least 50% of their field goals. We know how ridiculous the three-point shooting numbers are right now as well. So if you're Hubert Davis, how do you instill that hope of the newness? And I guess the flip side of it too is if you're John Shire, how do you help your Duke Blue Devils not like take this for granted because of what Carolina now is?
Yeah, I'm sure they're watching film of the previous game. I didn't get to see the Virginia Tech game live. I went back and watched it the next day. Every time the ball went in, I mean, out of their hands, it looked like it was going in from three. And I would show every single one of them in film and seeing just that confidence that you have. And when you get a streak like this, again, I understand the competition level, but when you win 5, 6, 7 games in a row, you start to believe that we're never going to lose again. I don't care who we're playing. And that's kind of the way we feel about our squad right now. I mean, we're just like, hey, bring it on. I don't care who we play at the national tournament. We feel confident. We're so used to winning right now that the confidence is just overwhelming. So I think that's part of it. It also, we'll get to the senior night thing a little bit too, but there's momentum in the senior night. Our last loss was on a senior night game on the road. People play differently. There's emotion there. There's just a wave of momentum that comes with senior night. I lost my senior night game in college. It was a long time ago, but it still hurts. It's you want to make sure you win that game on your senior night. And of course, the urgency that Carolina has to play with right now, knowing that if they win this game, pretty much clinches any doubt about whether they play in a national tournament or not. So there's a whole lot more motivation there for Carolina right now than for Duke. Being at home, senior night, urgency. So there's a lot of reasons to play maybe a little bit harder. And I think that's the biggest key is to be able to play harder, get those 50-50 balls and make Duke uncomfortable at the offensive end.
I think there's a big thing to what you just said there, Coach. I mean, obviously Duke's not playing for nothing, but I think Carolina has a lot more to play for, not just protecting their homeland, right? Which is a big thing. See Revolutionary War, America versus England, right? Like that matters. But like Duke's essentially got a 1 seed wrapped up. Yes, they're playing for the 1 seed in the NCAA or in the ACC tournament because there is still a world where Clemson and or Louisville could go ahead of them, which is so crazy to think about the reality of that. But I guess just Clemson, maybe not Louisville. Now that I say that, but I think there's something to that, Coach, of like the Coach Pat Kilby and I talked about this on yesterday's show. There are some shades of the 2022 game where Carolina went into Cameron for Coach K's final regular season game. There's a lot of similar storylines and scenarios going on. I wonder about how much Carolina's recent offensive balance plays into this as well, Coach. Carolina tweeted out on Wednesday evening that for the first time in Carolina history, 5 Tar Heels have scored in double figures for 4 consecutive ACC games. Coach, let me drill down on that to something I think is even cooler with it. In that stretch, there's been just one 20-point score, and that was RJ Davis in the Florida State game, and it was exactly 20 points. So, like, not only is it offensive balance, but I mean, it's like crazy flat. How does that affect both Carolina and Duke?
I think it's a trust factor for Carolina. Now, when that extra pass is getting ready to make, and you're thinking, well, I better shoot this guy. I don't trust that guy to make that. Now, they're trusting each other more now than they have ever this season. And you can see it. You can see them sharing the ball. The ball movement's quicker. The decision making's quicker. And that's leading to better shots. And it's leading to more balanced scoring. And I think that's the big thing for Carolina right now is that they do trust each other. It seems like they like each other more now than they did maybe 3 months ago. And it just seems like they're more of a team. And I think that's a big part of that balance, that they do trust each other. On the flip side, that makes it harder for Duke to figure out who they're going to guard. Who do they put their best defender on? Because let's be honest, it's anybody on any given night can score, 15, 20 points. It makes it harder to defend. They're going to switch everything. They're going to do, what Duke does. But I think it's going to allow them to share the basketball more and take advantage of whatever, mismatches that they have at the offensive end.
Speaking of those defensive things, Duke has been without Malik Brown again for a little bit. He is their best interior defender, despite not being the starter. And so we'll see. As we record, I don't have word on if he's playing or not, which is a good time to plug. By the way, we've also got an episode up today, a crossover with JJ Jackson, who is the Locked On Duke host, and so I'll be able to talk with him more about that, get an update. So make sure you check out that episode as well. Now we got to get to our Four Corners preview, Coach. The first game was basically over before it started. Carolina was in a 17-point hole 7 minutes into that game, and a lot of it was because of some turnovers. So, Coach, we got to get to the Four Corners preview, that and more coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to get in on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on that action. And if you're looking to get a bigger payout, you could combine some of those into a same-game parlay. It's great because when you win with FanDuel, you get paid instantly. Right now, Carolina's sitting firmly on the bubble. And when you go to FanDuel, there's actually lines for Carolina and several other bubble teams to make the NCAA tournament or not. It's a great way to get in on that. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, that's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. It's time for the Four Corners preview, our game-by-game tribute to Coach Dean Smith and his Four Corners offense. Coach Rob, kick us off. What's the first thing here?
First thing for me is just the guard play. Guard play has been really special lately. It was not special in the first game. So obviously RJ's been shooting the ball like RJ. What we expected all along. He's been great. He's been fantastic. We need that to continue, especially on his senior night. We'd love to have him have a really special night. The turnovers that we talked about before. I mean, it's so important. I think Elliot had 5 turnovers that first game, and they were all early, and they led to run outs and dunks. They led to open threes. They led to opportunities where that momentum, they seized the momentum early and just never looked back. So to me, the guard play has got to be excellent. And the other factor is the defensive intensity with that guard play. It just seemed like the intensity was not there. Duke got whatever they wanted to. Nothing was hard. And I really want to see that change come Saturday evening.
Man, yes. It's been interesting this week, Coach. I've had a lot of people reaching out to say, hey, I'm advocating for switching the lineup. Let's bring Elliot off the bench and start RJ with Seth or Ian along with the others. And it's just like, I hear you and I get why you say it. It ain't broke right now and you ain't fixing it, right? And so if Elliot's having a tough game, quick chain. But you got to keep him in there, assuming that he's going to be the good version of Elliot. I just don't see as a coach how you could or would switch that up. Am I off there?
No, I think you're right on point. I think that's exactly how I thought it. Leader, your point guard. But I think his leash has gotten shorter and shorter, and it's back to the bank. You know, you deposit stuff all along. He's a second-year player. You're making deposits, but he has withdrawn more out of his bank lately. And if it's something that happens early, like we saw at Cameron, maybe his bank's getting a little bit closer to being empty, and maybe we need to throw somebody else in there whose bank's got a little bit more in it. So I think his leash is a little shorter than it has been. But boy, when we get good Elliot, we're really, really good.
Ooh, yep. Against Virginia Tech on Tuesday night, there were not points scored in bunches for Elliot, just 2 if I remember correctly. But that 4-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, you'll take that. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night. Coach, number 2 in the Four Corners preview. I got to go with Carolina's 3-point shooting. I mean, it's been absolutely absurd in this winning streak. I've continued to talk about it. I know everyone's sick of the numbers, so I'm not going to hit you with that again, other than to say that Carolina has now jumped into the top 100 in the nation in terms of 3-point field goal percentage. I love it in this game because Carolina's ability to hit the 3 lately is going to, by necessity, force Duke to do some different things defensively. If that means they come out and try to run Carolina off the line, then that means you've got lanes to the rim. You attack, You either get fouled, finish, or draw Malawach or whomever over and dump off for another defender, or you get the kick out for the 3. Or if Duke is trying to mitigate it by continuing to switch everything 1 through 5, like you talked about earlier, Coach, then you got to find the matchup you want and expose it. Now, it's more difficult because Malawach is a good, versatile, horizontal defender. He can slide his feet with these guards. Like, that is a reality. But how do you expose that? That's what we're looking for. At this point, we're assuming that Carolina is just going to keep hitting from outside as they've been doing, because we've seen no signs of it slacking off or going anywhere. Also, the fact that it's coming from so many different people. 7 different Tar Heels hit a 3 in Blacksburg the other day. That's just ridiculous. And so you got to assume that multiple Tar Heels are going to be on. But I think Carolina's 3-point shooting can help mitigate the massive size advantage that Duke has there. Coach, anything on that before you take us to point number 3?
Yeah, I think they find that mismatch. If they get by, they make the extra pass. Then the extra pass is made to the open guy after the rotations happen. That's what I'm looking for. It's not the one-on-one and seeing RJ try to break down a 7-footer and then, try to shoot over or around him. It's that extra pass leading to the next pass. The hockey assist is what I'm really looking for right now. But the way they're sharing the basketball, I'm confident that will happen.
To that point, another Virginia Tech stat. In that game, Carolina's season high for assists, tied for the second most in the Hubert Davis era, and the highest assist ratio of the entire season. Coach, what's point number 3?
Point number 3 for me is the Drake Powell factor. And with the different lineup, with having bigger, and I know he plays the 3, I still see him guarding Cooper Flagg and not having to double. For me, the ability for him, if he can guard him one-on-one and not have to double, I think Cooper Flagg had 4 assists in the first 5 minutes, because they're trying to double and allowing him to be able to see the floor because he is so big, and for him to be able to distribute. And the turnovers led to run outs and him making passes in transition. But I think with Drake on him, allow him to guard him one-on-one. If he can successfully do that, at least limit. Obviously, he's not going to stop him completely, but if he can limit his production, I think that's a huge win for Carolina's defense, and allow everybody else just to be able to stay at home and not have to run around and rotate like crazy and leave open shooters. So to me, that's a huge factor in Saturday's game.
Coach, this is really interesting to me. So you using Drake Powell to guard Cooper Flagg, which I love, means that Jalen Withers is going to have to guard somebody else, because I'm assuming Van Allen Lubin is going to be on Kaman Malawach. So that leaves either Con Knipple, Sion James, or Tyrese Proctor there that Jalen Withers is going to have to guard. Any sense of who you would put Withers on in that scenario?
Not really, because to me, we could switch the rest of those. We have a system right now where we can switch all 5, or switch 1 through 4, or even switch 1 through 3. So it's a situation where we have communication for all those are different calls. So I could see maybe the guard switching only, and maybe having him try to stay with one, or maybe having Van Lubin stay with the big post and have Powell stay with Flagg and switch the other 3.
Yeah.
I could see that something like that happening too, and just being able to fly around. And I think that's more important. The urgency, the intensity is more important than a matchup with those other guys. Let the other 3 guys just switch and let those 2 guys stay on. To me, that's the strategy right now, at least to start with, and then you make adjustments from there.
Sure, absolutely, as game flow would dictate. So, folks, that's something critical and key to watch out for. How does Carolina guard coming out of the gate there? Now, Coach, 4th in the Four Corners preview, I'm going with rebounding. In the last 4 games, Coach, Carolina has led rebounding margin by double-digit figures. Folks might or might not remember, but Carolina out-rebounded Duke in the first game 31-26, and also out-rebounded them on the offensive glass 12 to, if I remember, I'm looking real quick, 7. Yes, 12-7. But the thing is, despite doing that, Coach, Duke won the second chance points 9-5. That doesn't typically happen. Usually the team that gets more offensive rebounds gets more second chance points than the other. But Coach, here's a point that I thought you so wisely made as we were getting ready for the show here. there ain't many offensive rebounds to be found when Duke shoots 52.8% from the field, shoots exactly 50%, 10 of 20 from three. And so that makes a lot of sense there as Carolina wasn't hitting as well. Now, Carolina still shot 47.3% in that first game, which is nice. Obviously, the second half surge as the game was out of reach kind of made up for a lot of that. Like in the first half, let me look back and see Carolina's shooting. Yeah, 29.6, right? So that's a very big difference there. The second half made up for that in a big way. So, Coach, I think the rebounding is going to be critical in this thing. Keeping Duke off the offensive rebounding glass, Carolina has to end defensive possessions with a rebound. I think the new lineup you're talking about is a big factor in that, quite literally, no pun intended there, but bringing Drake in alongside of Jae'lyn Withers and Ben Allen Lubin has really helped, and we've seen it in Carolina's rebounding margin. But that battle, keeping Duke off the offensive glass, limiting them to one shot, is going to be critical in helping determine the outcome of this game.
Yeah, and I think to me it's the physicalness because of Duke's length. You can box somebody out, have them 5-6 feet away from the basket. They're still going to get a piece, a tip out. They've got to be able to push those guys out. They've got to be able to meet them further away from the basket, and all those are those intensity, the urgency things that we've been talking about, and being real physical and not letting them push you underneath the goal. And just and we talk about this too. It's fight. It's just that will to win, and there's technique to rebounding. But boy, I've heard people say as much as 90% it's just will. It's me wanting it more than the other guy. And I think those things with senior night, home rivalry game, all those things, that the urgency of the NCAA tournament, all those things feed into that fact that we just got to go out and fight more than what we did at Cameron.
Yeah, I mean, Coach, look, I'm 5'11", but I got good hips and a good butt, and I got a motor, so I can rebound with the best of them. So stick me out there, I'm ready. Now, you just mentioned senior night. That's where we got to go next, because there's a lot of emotion associated with every senior night. Every time I think about senior night, I rewind to Marcus Page, man. That was one of the most moving speeches I've ever heard, his comments to Roy Williams there. But Coach, there is good and bad emotion. And so we got to talk about how to handle that, what it means for starting lineups and other things. We'll give an update. Carolina women's team is literally playing, as I said, in real time right here. They're in a battle right now with Boston College. Want to get a Milligan update from Coach Rob. All that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Nissan, check out the Nissan Armada Pro 4X. And on that, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can quite literally carry the whole team plus the gear wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada Pro 4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. So take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more right now at nissanusa.com. It is senior night, Coach, and every other year that means senior night is hosting Duke, and that always brings just everything from the rivalry to the emotion of senior night. Obviously, things have changed in the Hubert Davis era. We don't anymore have the post-game speeches by the seniors, which, contrary to popular belief, was really just more of a Roy Williams thing that he brought along. Now we get these pre-produced videos. I think that's better because some guys just aren't comfortable in that moment. But there is a ton of emotion that comes with senior night. Coach, there are 3 seniors this year that are playing. That's RJ Davis, that's Jae'lyn Withers, and that's Ty Claude. All 3 obviously are fifth-year guys who have taken advantage of their COVID eligibility. Quick reminder, this is the last year of that, save for any medical redshirt guys who might get COVID eligibility next year. But Coach, none of the walk-ons are seniors. Coach Davis's son Elijah is a senior, but he's redshirting and not playing this year, so that doesn't factor in. Before we talk about starting lineup and that kind of stuff, Coach, I just want to ask you, how do you manage well the emotion of senior night? Because there's a good version of that and there's a bad version of it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's stuff that we want to address beforehand in practice in the days leading up to it, so the guys know exactly what we do. I actually do pregame real quick stories about each guy. I want it to be personal. I don't want to read their stats. Anybody that can look those up, but I do want to say a little story about each one of them and make it fun. One thing we do unique, and I don't know if this can't probably translate into the Division I level, but we actually ask each guy who's starting as a senior what their favorite set is and try to get them a shot early in the game. We want them to be able to get a feel for the game a little bit. But we actually had one of our seniors who's a post player this year, Flynn Carlson. He wanted a flare screen for a three, and he's not a 3-point shooter. And first play of the game, ran the flare. Of course, the other team didn't defend it because he does not 3-point shooter and got a wide open look, just a little short. He didn't make it. But again, I want to honor those guys. I want them to feel like they have some ownership in it. But that's just a little twist that we have that I think makes senior night even a little bit more special for our guys.
Did he get rim, Coach? Did he at least hit some rim?
Yeah, oh yeah, he did get rim, and nobody thought anything of it. If you look at the broadcast, our broadcast team didn't say anything about it like it was anything unusual. It just he caught it in rhythm, took a shot. Nobody said a word. But if it had gone in, we would have went crazy.
Dude, I love that idea, Coach. That's so fun. How could the emotion go negative, like in terms of getting too amped up?
Yeah, I think sometimes you guys get a little bit nervous and think maybe overthink things a little bit. Don't see that happening with the Tar Heels. You got three guys who play at least in rotation. Of course, Ty Claude doesn't play a whole lot, but yet he still gets time. So I don't see anything. I would anticipate him starting. I hope he does. I think that's the least that they can do for his commitment to the Tar Heels this year. But you do want to address things and just try to maybe downplay a little bit. Hey, just relax, go play. It's just basketball. We play basketball all the time. Just go play. And once the ball is tipped and you get up and down the floor once or twice, it takes over, and it's just back to what you do normally. So I usually don't see anything real negative with it, as long as things are handled the right way ahead of time.
Yeah. And what's kind of unique about this year, Coach, it feels like usually there are multiple seniors who are not either rotation players or not starters. And as I said earlier, there's really none of that this year. You just mentioned Ty Claude is really the only one, but it's a scenario where, assuming he's starting like you typically do, his physicality and size might actually be a good thing against Kamon Malawach that Van Allen might not quite have that same he's beast mode like you've talked about, but it's not that big of a trade-off other than losing. Man, Ven's been doing so much lately, Coach. It's been fun to watch, by the way. Have you seen I haven't talked to you about it. I've been talking about it on the show. Have you seen Van Allen's field goal percentage?
I haven't looked at it, but it's got to be crazy.
You ready?
Yes.
71%. He doesn't take
Insane.
enough to qualify, but still, man, it's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, so folks, we expect Ty Claude, Jalen Withers, and RJ Davis to all be in the starting lineup. And then you see who the other two guys are going to be, assuming, with RJ being the 2, Jay Witt being the 4, and Ty Claude being the 5. I would assume Carolina just rolls out Elliot at the 1 and Drake at the 3, as they typically would. And we'll see. And some of how much Ty plays might just be dictated by, what happens and how quick Van Allen gets into the game. But I think that's the thing to watch for tomorrow night. Coach, anything else on senior night or the lineups or rotations or anything?
Yeah, and in Ty Claude's situation, just go crazy. If you get 2 fouls right away, or you want to go in and bang and do it, just there's no reason for him to hold back. So I think it can be a great thing. Hey man, you're going to get 3 or 4 minutes. You're going to play till the 4-minute media. Just go absolutely crazy and see what happens. And I think that's when really good things can happen, and you see some really special things because there's nothing to lose. Just go nuts for 4 minutes and see what happens.
Speaking of nothing to lose, Coach, I want to specifically ask about senior night for RJ, which, as I mentioned it to you, I think I'm feeling the weight. Gosh, I'm getting like almost emotional thinking about it. The weight of this young man who literally, when he steps on the floor to play this game, will become the ACC all-time leader in games played, surpassing Armando from last year, has given so much to this university, has experienced the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, has literally, and forgive me everyone for jinxing it, I'm knocking on wood as I say it, Coach, one of my favorite stats about RJ, has literally never missed a game in his Carolina career, has played every game available to him. One of the issues earlier in this season for him, and he's talked about it, is he was pressing too much, taking too much on himself. This is a game, he's been doing wildly better with that lately, but this is a game where that could rear its head again. Are you looking for a vintage RJ Davis performance? What do you think happens?
Yeah, I think he's going to have a great game. And it's one of those things from a coaching perspective. If you see him pressing a little bit early, maybe give him a break. Maybe pull him earlier than you normally would. Just and it would be a 30-second one. Maybe, hey man, go get a drink, come back and see me type thing. And maybe the next dead ball, he's right back in there. But it's one of those things. Hey, I'm going to talk to one of the assistant coaches and say, you just focus on RJ. Do you see something unusual? Tell me. Let's pull him. Let's get him relaxed a little bit and then get him back in the game. But
Yeah.
it is overwhelming. His legacy is secure. He's done things that nobody expected him to do. So hey, just relax and go play. Go be you. And I think that's the message that I would be giving him before game. Just relax, go play, enjoy the moment. Don't get too caught up in it, and let's go do something special and make this really an incredible night.
And something I didn't think about until just now is this is kind of senior night round 2 for him, because at this point last year, we didn't know if he'd be back or not. And so went through those. And so this is kind of the encore of that. Coach, really quick here. Carolina women's basketball team is in action right now in the ACC tournament. Their first game, they had a bye before now playing Boston College. The women are the 5 seed, BC coming in as the 12 or the 13. I'm forgetting in real time here. Coach, it looked grim. Carolina had a lead. BC outscored them 24-18 in the third quarter and then went on a 9-0 run to start the fourth. Carolina was down by 8 or 9 points, but now the Tar Heels are on their own 12-1 run, and now we're back up 6 with 1:29 to go. Literally before we started segment 3, I said to you off air, coaches ain't looking good. We might be talking about the ladies losing. I think they're in good shape now. That's great stuff, and then they'll hopefully hold on in these final 90 seconds and advance. It's great that Alyssa Usby has been back in the game. Playing this one, although still no Renaya Kelly, and so we watch for her to be back. Now, Coach, here's the update I need from you. As folks are watching or listening to this on Friday, the Milligan Buffaloes already know their spot for the NAIA National Tournament. But today, as you and I record on Thursday, we're still a couple hours away from the selection show for you. First off, just tell us a little bit about the emotion of the game Saturday in the conference championship game. Someone went on there and the great comeback from the Buffs, and then what you're looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great tournament. We got down 5 at halftime, and then fought back, and then again got down 5 with about 2.5 minutes left. Luke Lentz hit a huge 3 from about 30 feet away to cut it to 1, made a couple stops, got a dunk late, and then made our free throws down the stretch to secure that victory. So it was an awesome weekend for our program. Who knew that the NAI had bracketologists, but there are, and it looks like we're going to end up possibly in Baldwin City, Kansas, or even possibly West Palm Beach, Florida. So it's actually nasty and a little snowing here a little bit, little flurries today, no accumulation, but West Palm Beach sounds really, really nice right now. So we won't have a great seed. We haven't been in a national tournament. I think it's in 7 years since my son was playing. Willie's senior year, we went to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Ironically enough, Jack Frost is in Sioux Falls, South Dakota with University of Denver team, and Shaman Williams for their conference tournament starting today. So in the exact same arena that we played in. So the Pentagon up there.
The Pentagon, yeah.
Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yeah.
So it's just a kind of ironic thing that Jack's up there with Shaman today. But we're really looking forward to it. 8 o'clock Eastern time tonight. We'll find where our location is. So they do it very similar to the NCAA national tournament. 16 host sites. You play 2 games. The winners at those 16 sites end up all going to Kansas City and finishing the tournament there. So it's kind of a cool setting where all 16 teams end up at one site after the first and second round are completed.
Kansas City, you say?
Kansas City.
That's 2 hours up the road at the T-Mobile Center.
It's at
UMKC.
Memorial Coliseum right downtown.
Okay, and where's the place in Kansas you said you might end up for the first round?
Baker University.
Baldwin City. I'm looking up how far away from me that is.
Say it's about 20 miles south of Lawrence.
Oh, yep, it is. Coach, that says 2.5 hours away. Good grief. Okay. Here's to hoping that happens. I love it. Well, I'm so excited for you, so excited for the guys. We're excited to hear more updates and details about how things come out. Folks, I'll share it on the show and on our Locked On Tar Heels Discord as well. Quick update on our other weekly guests postseason. Coach Pat Kilby texted me earlier today on Thursday. As a reminder, his Dale Pirates are in the Elite 8 of the Oklahoma 2A high school playoffs. They won 74-55. Thursday morning in the Elite 8. So today, Friday, they'll be playing in the Final Four. Should they win, they'll be in the state championship game tomorrow. So, man, for Coach Rob, for Coach Pack. It's great stuff. Good luck to both of these guys. Folks, we're running real long here, so we're not going to get into the rest of the weekend whip around of all the Carolina basketball or Carolina other sports teams. We will update that obviously on Monday on the back end of the weekend. Quick check on the women's game again. Up 4 with 26 seconds to go. Make those free throws, lady. Let's go. Good grief. That's too tight. We believe in you, Coach Banghart. Y'all, if you have not subscribed to the show yet on video and audio, make sure you do that. We're closing in on 10,000. I think we're like 25 subscribers away on YouTube. That's crazy to think about. It is all because of all you who come here to hang out with us, and we could not be more grateful for you giving of your time to come hang out with these two dudes as we talk about basketball. It means the world. Don't forget, as a reminder, today we've also got a crossover with Locked On Blue Devils, getting ready for the game to hear more inside the Blue Devils camp from JJ Jackson, who is a great host over there for the Blue Devils. We will be live as always tomorrow after the game. Make plans to tune in. I'll drop a link for that earlier on the day on Saturday. And also, we're going to have to keep things updated on the bubble watch. No real bubble action on Thursday or Friday. And so that's that. You guys, if you've not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, that link is in the show notes. If you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, that link is also in the show notes. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow after the game, hopefully celebrating and not having a therapy session. But until then, peace.